I'm Margaret Sands. I'm the Associate Director of Land Protection West at Triangle Land Conservancy. So I think we are the first nonprofit that you're hearing from today. And we are one of about 30 land trusts in North Carolina and one of several thousand across the United States. So this is a little bit of a breakdown of the other land trusts in our state. Almost every county in the state is covered by a land trust, and here in Orange County, you are actually pretty lucky that you have a couple of options. So Triangle Land Conservancy works here in Orange County, but also Eno River Association, who Chris was talking about earlier. They also are active in the Eno watershed portion of Orange County. And then one of the reasons that land trusts exist is that not every county is as well equipped as Orange County is for protecting land through conservation. So here, if you want to do a conservation easement, you have the potential to work with Orange County government directly, or Triangle Land Conservancy, or Eno River Association. And from our perspective, this is a really good thing because it gives landowners lots of options and opportunities and helps us all be effective stewards of our resources in order to conserve the most land effectively. So this is Triangle Land Conservancy's region. We cover the 6 counties around the triangle. And so as you can see, we have projects all over our region. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and so we were founded in 1983. And we have over 27,000 acres that we've protected since then. And we own about 8,000 acres. So since Chris did such a good job talking about conservation easements, can't make it through a presentation without talking about conservation easements, but I'm going to talk about owned lands a little more this time. So we do have 7 public nature preserves with hiking and biking trails. 2 of them are in Orange County. Has anyone been to Brumley Nature Preserve? Awesome. How about Johnston Mill? Great. The rest of you have your weekend plans laid out. So we have some public nature preserves that are owned and managed by TLC. And we also have a farm preserve here that's on the map there. It's kind of on the border of Chatham and Orange County's urban farm. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that one in a little. So our mission as a nonprofit, we have our mission statement, and basically we're using land conservation and community collaboration as a tool for public benefit. And for us, there are 4 main public benefits that we're always trying to achieve. The first is safeguarding clean drinking water, protecting natural habitats, supporting local farms and food, and connecting people with nature. So everything that we do has to come back and serve that mission in some way. And so our conservation options align pretty well with the counties. And so we do have conservation easements. And I'll also be talking about fee simple and sales and donations and bequests today. So conservation easements are what Chris just went into great detail about. It's where the property is going to remain in private ownership, and the other 2 that I'll talk about, the land trust ends up owning those in the end of the transaction. So what you just heard, sometimes people describe landowners' rights on their land as a bundle of rights. So that's why we have our little bundle of sticks up there. And so you have the right to build a house, the right to subdivide, mineral rights, access rights. And so a conservation easement is voluntarily severing some of those rights from your property. And then those rights are held and protected by either the county or a land trust. But the landowner still owns the land, uses it, sells it, passes it on to their heirs. We typically do a combination of funding sources. Usually a landowner donates at least a portion of the land value, and that helps us to access other funding sources. And we usually work with the local government. Now we are very excited for the first time in our history. I think all 6 of our counties contribute to working lands conservation easements now, which is a really great resource. Not all of our counties hold easements themselves. So Lee County and Chatham County don't actually hold conservation easements. But here in Orange County, we have the opportunity to maybe co-hold an easement like Chris was talking about, in addition to working together on funding. And then in perpetuity, TLC staff monitor the conservation easements annually to ensure they're followed and continue landowner relationships. And really, in a county like Orange, where you do have a great county program, sometimes the preference is just people might not want to work with county government and would prefer to work with a land trust. And yeah, sorry, Chris, but so it's really it's a good thing to have where you do have these options, but we do mostly end up working together. But who's going to monitor the property annually for in perpetuity is just one of the few differences between working with the county versus TLC. So since you already are experts, I have included a quiz. So if you could just call out true or false. Do conservation easements guarantee public access? False. Conservation easements don't allow for any structures to be built. False. So in that survey map that you saw from Chris, we can have some building envelopes and TLC's easements, and I think maybe the counties you can have up to 2% impervious surface. So do conservation easements allow for continued farming or forestry? True, as long as it's a working lands easement. Do they allow hunting? Yes. Conservation easements allow parcel subdivision. False. Conservation easements can be extinguished. False. Conservation easements can provide a cash payout to the landowner. True. Funding is competitive but available. And finally, conservation easements are a great tool for landowners to protect their farm and forest. True. All right, y'all did great. All right, talk, Chris. So yeah, we are excited to work with so many great landowners and farmers who have found that conservation easements have just been a really good resource for how they want to leave the legacy on their land. Another option is for people who no longer want to own their property, are okay with not having ownership of their land at the end of the transaction. So that's these other tools that I'm going to talk about. So the first is a fee simple sale / donation. So this is the example of all of the nature preserves that I showed you at the beginning. Johnston Mill, which is pictured up here at the top, and Bromley Nature Preserve. These are both properties that TLC owns. So these are fee simple land transfers. So now TLC is on the deed and we are the full owners of those properties. So we sometimes can purchase properties. Sometimes we do a bargain sale, which is what we learned about earlier, where part of the value is purchased and part of it is donated. And sometimes people donate their land fully to TLC. And so with any amount that is less than appraised value, there can be some tax income benefits. So there is a federal and currently there's also a state income tax benefit associated with bargain sales and donations. All of this is dependent on funding sources, of course, but the one thing that a nonprofit and a land trust can't do is ever pay above appraised value for a property. So we often use a combination of state, private, and local funds to purchase properties. These two are good examples. The North Carolina Land and Water Fund helped to fund both of these projects. And Bromley Nature Preserve also used money from the city of Raleigh because it is upstream from Falls Lake and therefore upstream from Raleigh's drinking water. So it's in their interest to have this be a nature preserve instead of the subdivision that it was once planned to be. And after taking ownership, properties may be open to the public. They can be transferred to a partner agency, like in the case of Hollow Rock Nature Preserve or Little River Regional Park, or they can be held privately by TLC for conservation purposes. So we do actually have some properties that are not open to the public that are held by TLC. So some of you may live near some of these properties. You might see them on the books occasionally. A lot of times those are properties that are held for habitat purposes. And so we don't open every property that we have to the public. We kind of do a cost benefit analysis of what the best fit is for the property. So Usually the properties that we do open to the public are pretty large. The Johnston Mill is 296 acres, Bromley is 673 acres. We also own several smaller properties that we manage for habitat and clean water. And then our staff are in charge of all of the management and stewardship. So you can see our prescribed burning and other habitat management activities that we do. So our project selection is based on a lot of internal criteria. This is a glimpse of our GIS model that we use to assess natural habitat percentiles. So this looks at all of the parcels in Orange County and weighs them against one another in our region, so we can assess how they stack up against their peer parcels. So this is for Johnston Mill Nature Preserve, and it's for greater than 99.4% of all the other parcels in our region for natural habitat benefits. So we use some tools like that, project criteria, and at the end of the day, each of our projects has to hit at least one, but oftentimes hits more than one of our public benefits. So lastly is bequest is another TLC ownership option where the land ends up being fully owned by TLC. And this is in the case of someone leaving their land to Triangle Land Conservancy in their estate plans. So the urban farm that is on the border of Chatham and Orange County, is an example of this. Our staff worked with Mrs. Urban, who wanted her land to continue to be a working farm and to serve as an educational property, but didn't want it open to the public. So this is one of our private preserves. Has anyone interacted with Transplanting Traditions? Great, so they are on urban farms, so you can see some of their infrastructure here. And how about Learning Outside? Anybody know them? So they're a pretty cool outdoor youth program, outdoor kindergarten. And so they are two of our partners that are operating on Urban Farm, which was left to TLC. And so Mrs. Urban lived on the property. She lived out her whole life in the farmhouse there on the property. And then when she passed in her estate plans, the property came to TLC. And so you're still responsible for all of the management, taxes, and everything while you're living. But if you remove this from your estate, it can have some benefits in the estate taxes that are due when your estate is settled. And so this is probably one of the simpler options for how to go about conserving your land, because like Chris was talking about, it can take a few years to do a conservation easement. And with a bequest, you can, if anybody's updated their will, it's not that difficult to process. But we do always suggest that you alert TLC staff if you're going to include us in your plans, so that we can make sure that we understand your wishes and that it's something that we're capable of doing. So if you're going to leave us 5 acres in Orange County on the requirement that we build a baseball diamond in the middle of it and have nature preserve around it, it's not something TLC is going to be able to do. So it's better to discuss that while you're living, so that we can work on a plan together that's going to make sense for your land and your legacy. Okay. And then the last program I wanted to talk about is the Good Ground Initiative. So this program uses the tools that we've already discussed in order to protect critical agricultural land and increase opportunities to own, retain, or steward land. So this is taking the fee simple transfer option and mixing it together with conservation easements. So this tool for land trust is called Buy, Protect, Sell. I think really it would make more sense to call it Acquire, Protect, Sell. Because as you just learned, sometimes land is donated to us, sometimes we buy it, and a lot of times it's a bargain sale. So this is a program where we are acquiring high quality farmland, in particular working lands, and transferring ownership to people who would like to own land and be good stewards of it. So this program is designed to be able to conserve more farmland and open up ownership opportunities to people who would be good stewards of land but would have trouble affording it at the regular prices. If you're competing with a developer to purchase land in Orange County, it's going to be a lot more expensive versus if you're buying conserved land. TLC kept coming up against people were, wanting to transition away from owning their land. They had great farmland, and we have learned that managing farms is a lot of work. So rather than just turning it all into meadows and early successional forest, we have started implementing buy, protect, sell, putting those properties under conservation easement, and then selling them at appraised conservation value to new land stewards. So we are in our 2030 strategic action plan, and we're identifying hotspots for conservation in each county, trying to protect at least one project in each. And our goal is to conserve 30,000 acres by 2030. So we're still at our increased pace of conservation. And if you'd like to discuss any of these options, my contact info is at the top. I also work with our Director of Conservation West, Bo House, who has been very busy in Orange County for many years. So you might have seen him around as well. We're both happy to talk with you, and our website is there at the bottom.